Hello, welcome. So today we're in r/best of Redditor updates, and we're looking at a post where the OP is mentally checked out of their relationship. But their other half has other ideas. So if that sounds interesting to you, then stick around and enjoy. And don't forget to like and subscribe, please. Thank you. So this one was compiled and posted in the Best of Redditor Updates subreddit by Choice Evidence 1983. I swear they must put in the work for this subreddit because I see their username come up all the damn time. Which, is fantastic for us because then at least we get these stories all in one nice place, which I love. So this one says, he has a ring and I found out that he's planning to propose on our anniversary, but I feel like I've mentally checked out. 1.5 years after he first told me we were going to get engaged soon. Oh, so this is a case of they waited just a little bit too long. So the original OP is on the screen and where it was originally posted to as well. I think this is posted to r/waiting to wed. I'm assuming that's a subreddit where people are just going on about wanting to get married. I have no idea. So this was originally posted on December 28th, 2024. My partner bought me the ring a long time ago. He previously insisted that we had to live together to see if we were compatible before he could propose, and that he wouldn't propose otherwise. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's a perfect idea. I've been ready for much longer than he has, and that's not his fault, of course. But after waiting and waiting, I have gone from anxiety to hope to excitement and finally just numbness. He didn't intend for me to know, but my sister, who helped him finalize the ring out of the ones I had liked, was happy about it and couldn't keep the secret that he's proposing in just under a week. It makes sense now that he was trying to get me to take a couple of days off to go away for a mini break to the town in which we met, but I couldn't get leave approved. She noticed that I've been feeling quite low throughout the holiday season, and she thought it was because I was waiting for a proposal, but the reality is that I gave up on it a month or two ago. To be fair, I think it's perfectly fine to want to live with somebody before you decide if you're going to get married. I think something like that is a perfect trial run for marriage, because essentially marriage is just living with somebody with a little certificate to say that you are now betrothed. There's no real difference in my eyes personally, so I don't particularly think that what he did was wrong in that sense. However, for the partner to buy a ring and let their fiance know they've bought a ring, but then not propose, that's kind of like playing with their head, and I can totally understand why that would make OP check out. I've tried to convince myself that it's what I still want, but the ship has sailed. It's quite strange to be in the process of falling out of love with him gradually. He's 29 and I'm about to turn 29. I fear I'm being irrational here because in total we've been together for only 3 years, but he's been telling me for 1.5 years that he will soon propose. I feel compelled to say yes now because everything is in place, but I don't feel in love with him anymore. He seems happy to talk about marriage now and has brought up marrying in autumn a bunch of times, and I wish I still felt the same joy at discussing wedding plans that I did before. No, if you're not feeling it, don't say yes. Absolutely not, because that's playing with his head then, and it makes you just as bad. Because you'll say yes now, but then you're going to go away and think on it even more and more, and then realize that you're making the biggest mistake ever by going along with it. And then we have some relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1. 3 years is nothing considering you could be spending the rest of your life with this person. Be glad you realise now. And then OP said, I've only begun feeling this way because he kept saying a proposal was coming soon and didn't propose for 1.5 years. And his insistence on living together when he knew it was not something I was comfortable with without being engaged. Well, then it seems like you have a very different set of moral standards for what you want in a relationship and just standards full stop for what you want in a relationship. So honestly, it doesn't really sound to me like you're all that compatible anyway. So it might just be better to just say, look, let's call this here. Because, yeah, I really just feel like there is a real stark incompatibility here in what you two want. I personally think living together is a great thing to do. If that's not something you're prepared to do, though, you need someone else who agrees. How long ago did OP move in with her boyfriend? Was it fine for her to live with him? OP. Only a few months ago. I shouldn't have done it because I was not happy to. I used to share a flat with my friend and had done for years. The only way to live together was to move into the flat he's been renting because he lives on his own. Big mistake doing something that didn't feel right to me at all. Yeah, definitely. If it's not within your scope of what you find acceptable in a relationship, don't do it. Honestly, I do think this relationship just shouldn't be a thing. They sound like two very different people with two very different expectations from a relationship. No, it's actually been fine living with him, but living together before engagement was really something I did not want to do. But he made it a condition to getting engaged after he bought the ring earlier in the year. I shouldn't have agreed to it, but I did, and that's where the resentment has come from, along with the 1.5 year wait. Commenter 2. To feel that much resentment after such a rather short time is a sign that you weren't right for each other anyway. Honestly, 3 years of dating and requesting to live with each other before marriage are totally reasonable at your age. Objectively, you were being a bit unfair, but if you are just not feeling it anymore, so be it. It's better to end things now before engagement. This is no base for a lifetime commitment. And then OP was downvoted for this comment. I don't think feeling resentment after waiting for 1.5 years is soon at all. He said he would propose soon, and soon is not more than a few months. Certainly not over a year. He should have been honest with me that he wasn't ready instead of dragging this for 1.5 years. See, I know that obviously OP was downvoted for that comment, but I actually agree, and I will tell you for why. I too, if someone said to me, we're going to do this soon, I would assume it would be no more than a couple months myself. It doesn't matter what it is, I would assume that's what they mean because soon quite literally means soon. Not in like a year and a half's time. I think that OP is definitely valid in their decision to not want to live with someone without marriage. Everyone does things differently, and I think that's okay to want that. But you also have to understand that other people aren't going to want that. And a lot of people do want to live with someone before marriage because, like I say, it's essentially a trial run for marriage without the big commitment of legally binding yourself to somebody. So I think if her other half is saying, I would like to live together before marriage, that's acceptable. I feel like what OP has done here is put the idea of marriage above thinking of the person they're getting married to. By that I mean, I feel like they're more bothered about actually just pinning someone down and getting married, and it doesn't really matter who it is, because if they'd taken more time to really think about it, they would see the glaring incompatibilities here between the two of them. So, as much as I don't think that the OP is a massive a-hole for not wanting to stick around anymore and being butthurt and whatnot, I get why they're feeling like that. For their boyfriend to say, oh, soon, I would assume sooner as well. So I get feeling butthurt over that. But I do think that the OP has put themselves in a sticky situation in the first place because the boyfriend quite literally said to them, I want to live with someone before marriage, which to me would say, I want to have a good long trial run of being with you and close with you in that way before I commit to marriage. And OP doesn't want that. OP just wants a quick marriage, So they've put themselves in the firing line for that one, unfortunately. And then OP is blaming her boyfriend for her choices and she needs to communicate with her boyfriend about the issue. OP, I don't believe I am, especially as he wasn't communicating clearly with me on the issue until a few months ago. Sometimes you need to do things that you feel will work out fine, but you don't realise until later how they will make you feel. I felt pushed into making that decision because of the various conversations that we had early this year, in which he shared things that he should have done a long time ago. Yeah, I think what it is actually is they're just going along with all this stuff, hoping that it'll make the boyfriend get married quicker, with not hearing that the boyfriend clearly doesn't want to do that. Commenter 3, 2 questions. 1, numbness aside, do you want to marry him? Like, take away all of the pomp and circumference and the emotional politics around it. Do you want him to be your life partner? 2, what the F is up with your sister? Why did she spill the beans? I get if she knew you were checking out and felt you needed a heads up, but if she didn't know that and it doesn't sound like she did, what she did isn't okay. Anyway, it's normal to be almost a little blue when getting engaged is a little later than you wanted. It doesn't mean this won't work, unless you don't want it to. It could mean that you just need to have a good, healthy fight where you air out all of your frustration that has held you hostage on this for so long. OP. 1, there was a time until recently when I really wanted him to be my life partner, and I thought we were a good match, but not anymore. 2, she was mistaken and thought that I had been feeling low because he hadn't proposed, so she was trying to cheer me up, thinking I'd be thrilled. He told her he'd had everything planned and ready for the proposal on our anniversary, so she thought I would be happy. Still, don't stick your nose in. Everyone knows a proposal is meant to be a surprise, so don't tell the person who will be receiving said proposal. Your sister clearly had good intentions, but she definitely overstepped the mark a little bit there, I would say. Now, on to the update. December 31st, 2024, 3 days later. In the middle of 2023, he said he was proposing soon, but a year later, he still hadn't, and finally admitted he wouldn't until we lived together, even though he had bought a ring. This was despite me asking him a couple of times what was holding things up, and he always assured me that it would happen soon. After he finally shared this with me, he kept insisting I move in, even though I wasn't interested in that before an engagement. But I did because of how much I loved him, and the resentment had been slowly building up ever since. I know it's my fault for moving in, and I should have been more firmer about my boundaries. He knew from early on that I didn't want to set up a home, with a partner without an engagement. Early in the relationship, 8 to 9 months in, he wanted me to move in, but I told him that I wouldn't do that with someone unless I was going to marry the person and was engaged. He said at the time that that was okay and that he understood. So why did he say he was going to propose soon last year, knowing where we stood on the matter? Knowing he was going to propose and realizing I didn't want to marry him anymore, I told him on Saturday night that we couldn't be together anymore. He didn't take it well. He told me I had blindsided him and that he thought we both wanted a future together. He initially said he didn't know what he did wrong, and I had to explain everything to him, that he knew we had issues regarding him always having his way, and him knowing I was uncomfortable about moving in before an engagement. The truth is, whenever we disagree, I always end up giving in. He doesn't compromise and isn't very flexible. I've pointed this out to him before, and he accepted that it was an issue, yet nothing changed. See, now this is a highly different perspective than we got before. None of this was mentioned before. Now that I'm ending things, he's saying he'll work on it and it's not something to break up over. We could probably work through the resentment and improve our communication, but I don't know if I'll ever feel the same way about him again. Also, given that he kept saying he was proposing soon but waited for 18 months, I worry that he might again drag his feet when it comes to other things like having kids or even with planning the wedding. He woke up this morning, the 31st, the day he was planning to propose on, as it's our wedding anniversary, and said he couldn't believe what was happening. He said it didn't feel real because we should be getting engaged today, but instead we were in the process of breaking up. I feel like this is a good thing. Whether the OP is truthful about the fact that he always gets his own way and she doesn't get a say, that would explain a lot, but still, considering this has been an ongoing pattern, why wait so long for a proposal of somebody you are obviously not happy with and have such tough incompatibility with? He even asked at one point if we could try again. saying our relationship had been happy for both of us and that living together we had been very compatible, irrespective of how I felt about moving in. He asked if I would consider giving the relationship another chance if we took a break from each other for some time. Again, I don't think this is a good idea. I would highly agree with you there, OP. I do not think it's a good idea either. The days since I ended the relationship have been really tough, but it was the right thing to do because we are incompatible. Friggin' hallelujah, you finally realized that you are just not compatible. People in my previous post mentioned that I just wanted to marry and get engaged and didn't care to who, and that's not true. To be fair, I thought that too. My ex, who I was with from university, was keen to marry me and brought it up soon after we started our first jobs. However, there were a range of issues in that relationship, and I didn't think it would work. So, after trying to resolve our issues and not being able to for a year, I had to end that relationship. If a marriage and engagement were all I wanted, I would have married him and ignored the issues. I genuinely thought my current partner, well, ex now, and I were a great match, but I suppose I was wrong. Okay, yeah, I mean, that is fair to say. If it was that you were just out for a marriage and this person previously was prepared to give you all of that ASAP, then to be fair, yeah. I just think maybe the OP didn't write their first post very well because we're getting a whole lot more context now. I was living in a flat with a friend, and it was ideal for me in every way. I had to find someone to take over my lease, and I did this to move in with him. Now I have to start looking for a new place again. I've already started, and fortunately, I live in a city where finding a place won't be too difficult. My friend said I should not move in a rush since I'm paying half the rent towards his place. But the reality is that his place never felt like home because I moved in begrudgingly. Again, I know it's my fault, but I can't live in what is essentially his home if we aren't going to be together. I mean, if you're paying half, that is your home too now, my love. My sister said that I should think about the fact that I'm going to be 29 and about how it might be difficult to find someone to have children with before I hit my mid 30s. Not at all a good enough reason to marry someone who you feel you're incompatible with. Do not get married to somebody just because you're worried that the biological clock is ticking a little too fast and loud. It is not going to end well, and you're going to have kids that you are then going to F up mentally because you and your partner realize, we weren't meant to be together after all. Don't do that. Really bad idea. But it's better to be single than in a relationship that's not right. I know I might not meet anyone else anytime soon, or at all, because you never know what life is going to bring, but that's okay. There are other things in my life that I plan to focus on, like studying for a postgrad diploma that I have been wanting to do for some time. I know he'll be fine soon, as he's quite resilient and the both of us can get on with our lives. Yeah, I honestly think this is all for the best. I don't see any problem with what's happening here right now. And then we've got some relevant comments again from the update. So a downvoted commenter commented, in this case, his hesitancy paid off because it allowed the OP to realise that they weren't compatible for the reasons unrelated to proposing. He was correct not to propose. It saved a future divorce. This wasn't his intent, but the overall issue here was that OP wasn't happy with how decisions were made in the relationship, and the partner was. It took years for the OP to express this, and now that she has, both can move on with their lives. In this case, the issue appears to be she didn't communicate with him the issue she was having. He was quite clear that he wanted to live with someone before getting married and proposed. After a reasonable length of time, it occurred. It's good she was finally able to communicate and move on. And then OP said he was not clear about this and waited a year to tell me why he wasn't proposing. And this was after earlier in the relationship when he wanted us to live together. I had told him I wouldn't live with someone unless the relationship was going to lead to marriage and I was engaged. And he said that was fine and continued the relationship. Yeah, I do kind of feel also, as much as OP is like, I want things like this and I don't want to have to mess around if it's not going to be like that. And again, I don't think it's unreasonable to want to live with someone before marriage. However, OP had expressed that they didn't want that. And then it feels like the boyfriend held the idea of an engagement over their head to try and get them to move in. So, yeah, I don't really think that that's communicating very well, is it? I feel like they just said, oh, yeah, we'll get engaged at some point to get OP to move in. And then what? Are they actually going to get married, or are they going to live in engagement limbo for years, you know? And then a commenter says, did he help with bills? Why did you need to move in and pay half? I don't see why that's unreasonable. OP, he didn't need help with paying bills, but I chose to pay as I think it's fair. I would not be comfortable with him picking up the bills for both of us when we both work. Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to live together, you pay half. Unless you have an arrangement that you're both very happy with, where one's paying more than the other, it is absolutely not unreasonable to expect that your partner goes halves on the bills with you. Commenter 2. He didn't fight for you. You'll meet the one. You know now what you don't want, and that's a good start. And to stick to your boundaries and goals always. Absolutely. It is fine to have expectations around relationships that what you want is what you want. You just need to find the person that agrees and feels the same way. That's all. OP, he's been quite difficult since that day, particularly about me leaving and looking for somewhere to move. But I don't want him to make it any more difficult by fighting for me. Just can't wait to be out of this place. Yeah, completely agree. I don't believe in fighting for a relationship when the other person says, I don't want this anymore. That's not fighting for a relationship. That's harassing somebody. When, you can consider it fighting for a relationship, say if you're having arguments and one person says, look, I really can't cope with this anymore. If it doesn't change, I'm going to have to leave, but I don't want to leave. So then the other person books up, pulls their big boy pants up or big girl pants up and changes and does the work. That's fighting for a relationship. We need to get rid of this very toxic idea that fighting for a relationship means harassing the person who doesn't want to be in it anymore. Commenter 3. So then they quote the OP by saying, he doesn't compromise and isn't very flexible. I've pointed this out to him before and he accepted that it was an issue, yet nothing changed. And they said, you are doing the right thing. Exactly. If somebody's telling you one thing and doing another, then don't expect that that's going to change if it's a repeated pattern of behaviour. Commenter 4. Don't fall for the trap of going back to the man who is willing to consider changing his ways when you already have your foot out the door. He won't change, and even if he does, it will only be temporary. Bingo. I've said this before about relationships. If somebody only starts to make changes when you are literally packing your bags and leaving, they will not continue on that behavior. They will not continue with the changed behavior. They will go back to how they were before. It is just a way to manipulate you into staying by making you think that they're going to change their ways and do what you want from now on, or do things the way you need it to be done. It's temporary and they will go back to being how they were before. Ask me how I know. I know because I've been there. I messed around and fooled around, basically making myself look an idiot by believing a guy when he was like, oh, I'll change, when he was acting like a prick. Oh, I'll change, a promise. Oh, okay then. Did a bit of change for all of a couple of weeks, then it'd go back to the same. It took me about 4 cycles of this, embarrassingly enough, to realise that he was never going to change. Also, the guy didn't know how to wash or brush his teeth properly, but that's another story for another day. And now we're down in the comments of the Best of Redditor Updates thread, and not the original thread. So, Gwynazin, I think. These get harder and harder to read, I swear. I think the one thing pretty much everyone can agree on is that it's a good thing they are not getting married. Oh, absolutely. Hard agree there. Peter 095837 says they both aren't meant to be together at all. Breaking up is the best decision for them. Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. They are not compatible. And if you stay with someone who you don't have compatibility with and have different views and, moral standards for the relationship, or standards per se for the relationship, it's never going to work. There's going to come a point where the butting heads constantly just gets too much. And then Extended Spike Protein says, absolutely. I wouldn't want to marry someone I hadn't lived with for a year. He shouldn't have strung her along, but that felt very unreasonable on her part. Good thing they're not getting married. Yeah, I agree. I think that was unreasonable on her part, but at the end of the day, it could be for many reasons. It could be a religious belief of why she believes she can't live with them unless she's married, which is fair enough. Not my bag, not my cup of tea. But you've got to find someone that agrees and has those beliefs as well. But again, for him to then hold an engagement over her head to try and get her to do what he wanted, whether her belief was for cultural reasons or religious reasons or just a standard that she holds for her life and how she wants her life to go. Whatever reason there was, it's valid. We're not all the same and we're not all going to have the same way that we do life. But he shouldn't have then gone, okay, well, I'll get engaged to you at some point, but you got to move in at some point first. That's not fair to do because he clearly did not have any intentions of actually pushing that marriage along. And then Infinitely Fuzzy says, honestly, I get it on her side. Even though I was also adamant about wanting to live with someone before marriage, she was very clear to him about her rules regarding it. For him to say he is proposing soon and to only bring up wanting to live together after a full year of waiting was just crappy. If he couldn't agree with her on the topic, he should have been honest about that and let her know he wasn't ready to propose. She likely would have been a lot better with waiting if he hadn't given her an empty promise over and over again. It also feels like there could have been a compromise if this dude had communicated a bit better. Engaged ain't married. It can be taken back. She asked for an engagement prior to moving in, not marriage. Why not give her the ring to make her feel more secure, but make it clear that you won't start planning and won't set a date until you've lived together first? Yeah, and that would have been the perfect compromise, wouldn't it? Because then you've got the thing that she wants. She's got that extra bit of commitment that she clearly needs to feel comfortable for moving in. But then he also has that cushion, that little cushion, the comfort cushion that he can fall back on of, oh, okay, well, we're going to call off the engagement. It's not a marriage. You can take it back. You can leave things whenever it doesn't serve you anymore. You are allowed to do that. So yeah, I think all in all, I think that OP played herself a little bit here, to be honest. I do think she played herself a little bit because he clearly from the start, if she had read between the lines, did not want the same things as her. However, he also played her because he strung her along. And let's be honest, how many of us have played ourselves by believing people that we really shouldn't have in hindsight and that the writing was on the wall and we ignored it? We've all done it. It's one of those things. He is more in the wrong for stringing her along when he knew full well what his ideas were. Well, that one was interesting, wasn't it? At the start, I honestly had the idea that the OP was a little bit of a brat. Just wanting everything her way and not wanting to give any leeway. But in that second update, we got a lot of context and it really did make more sense now as to why the OP felt put out and hard done by. And I would actually quite agree with the way they were feeling. I think they were quite valid to feel that way. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting one, that post. It really had me going on the roller coaster ride of emotions, trying to figure out what I thought and whose side I was on. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, then I appreciate you very, very much. I would appreciate you even more if you liked and subscribed. Helps you find your way back here because I post every single day. Other than that, I hope you've had a really good day and have a really good rest of your day, whatever you're doing. Goodbye.